The Absolute Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Absolute Podcast. I am your host, Jasmine Templin, online coach, personal trainer at Bikini Pro, and today we have our other head coach here, Shaun Fitzsimmons, who's also a bodybuilder pro. He's been with Team Absolute Athlete for, is it nearly 3 or 4 years? I don't remember.
It's been a while now, hasn't it? Yeah.
How are you?
No, great, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So good to have you again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this. This is going to be cool.
Yeah, your episode's always the most highest rated episodes, so obviously we have to do it for everyone. So
Got a bit to live up to, don't I?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, what's been happening in your life? Do you want to tell the listeners what's new? What's Shaun been up to these days? Because he's kind of quiet on socials. So tell.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting onto that. Yeah, just I suppose still been training as normal. That's not as normal. I suppose that's changed because of injuries and that sort of thing. If anyone's following me on socials, you would know that I've been battling that for a while. But other than that, I've been doing like a habits challenge recently. Really trying to focus just on my like overall health. I think that's something when you are like, focused solely on like physique based, they can stray away from. And I've tried a lot recently to sort of change my mindset more towards that healthy lifestyle approach, I guess. And it's been going really well lately, and the rehab's been good with my shoulders as well too. Been battling a lot of ongoing issues there for it's two years and a couple months now.
It's crazy. It's such a long time.
Yeah. And I know it was going to take a long time. I probably didn't address it as quickly as I should have at first. But look, we're here now. We're in a pretty good position and hoping to look to maybe compete again in a few
2027.
years. Yeah, 2027. I said originally.
I've announced it on the podcast already.
We've announced it. We've got to do it, haven't we? But no, honestly, I'm looking forward to and putting some more plans again in the future to do it. It'd be awesome if we could do it together too.
Oh, 100%. I am not competing if you're not doing it, and vice versa. Like, I will not let you compete if I'm not competing. Like,
we'll just bounce off each other.
Yeah, 100%. It would be so good.
The sessions would be just.
I know. It would be so good, and I feel like it'd also be bad though because we'd be like, oh, I can work harder. Let's go. We'll be doing like step challenge and be like, I'm gonna beat you.
Yeah, that friendly competition.
Yeah. Like when we're like shredded at like 20 weeks out.
100%. Oh god, yeah. No, I'm looking forward to going through all that again. And as crazy that is to say, but when you've had a while away from it, like you are like that, right?
Yeah.
Where like you have like maybe 6 months out and you're sort of like, I'm gonna stay away from it for a while. Hey. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to going through all that process again. But yeah, other than that, at the moment, still just sort of training to still build muscle where I can. Obviously, it's a lot limited upper body wise, but like, still training to sort of like for hypertrophy, I guess, and for strength overall. That's the way I like training. I have a powerlifting background as well too. So I've put a lot of emphasis towards, always making sure that I'm really pushing myself in the gym to gain strength and for that sort of like that powerlifting style, because that's a training I enjoy. And I encourage a lot of my clients to train the way that they are going to keep them in the gym and what they enjoy doing. So I've always put a big focus towards that. But like I said, slightly limited with my shoulder. But look, we're making moves, we're improving. Amazing. And that's all that matters, right?
No, that's so good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about contest prep and all things competing. I think that's what a lot of listeners are very excited to hear is just, what the process is from essentially start to finish of getting one of our clients on stage. Obviously, we've been prepping clients for so many years. We've been competing ourselves for so many years. So we definitely have a little bit of a chat about that. We're heading into season B now as well. So we're around that 7 to 8 weeks out for our season B clients as well. And then, for any of our clients who are in contest prep now, it's going to be a great episode, as well as any clients who want to compete with us, whether it's in season A next year or in a few years from now. So basically, this episode's going to be titled, so you want to compete in bodybuilding, like, what do you do essentially? So I guess for you, do you want to kind of take us on, for example, what you would do for any new client coming to you who says, hey Shaun, like, I'm really interested in wanting to compete in bodybuilding. I have no idea where to start. Been tracking macros and training for a while. They've maybe got some decent muscle mass. Like, what do you even do from there? What's the process?
Yep. I'm going to look at this from like a real optimal world, right? Like in the best position possible. So if someone comes to me saying that sort of situation, you obviously immediately get their background, how long they've been training for, are they familiar with like flexible dieting or just nutrition in general? Like, do you have that knowledge there? And then putting a big focus towards Are you consistent with your training? Like, is there any like sort of like, bad habits there, or, that sort of thing? Because you need to sort of find those things, I suppose, quite early. And then we can start to look at, okay, like, how long are we going to put a plan in process for this to get you up on stage? Me personally, obviously the more time the better, right? But at the same time, I do like to, like, if someone wants to get on stage soon, I'm more than happy to do that for them. As you would know, it's great to get your foot in the door with it, right? It's just like, see what that first time competing is like. And a lot of people then go like, oh my god, I absolutely love this, or maybe like, oh, maybe not as much for me. So if you were to spend, for example, like 5-6 years prepping, you get to the stage and you're like, that's not really for me.
My pro card looked amazing, but actually I hate bodybuilding.
Yeah. And like, it's honestly, it is very rare that happens. Most people do enjoy it, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to take someone on board who literally just started training and go, let's compete next year. Like, that's a different story, right? But if someone's came to me and they say, okay, look, I've got a good few years, training experience, I've built up a decent foundation, like I train consistently, I'm pretty good with my nutrition, I have a bit of a good background in regards to that sort of thing. I'm like, awesome, like this sounds good. Let's sort of start to look at a category that fits, and then we can start to put some moves towards that, and obviously really catering the sort of physique that they're after. Like, this is where we start to look at, okay, they'll send through their progress photos. It's like, all right, so where do we need to build up to give you the best opportunity to do well on stage, right? I always want my clients to do as well as they possibly can, and that will be the same with anybody. But I also want to make sure that we're doing it in the most, sustainable approach possible as well, So I'll always make sure it's like, okay, cool, let's just focus on, maybe, for example, you're doing bikini, we need to really, focus on building the shoulders and the glutes and the legs in particular. But, it might not need to spend as much time on something like bikini as you would with like fitness or, bodybuilding, obviously, and that sort of thing as well, So we start to look at the physique side of things there, where we need to improve, give a rough timeline in terms of how long that might take to reach that, and then start to put the plans in place. Okay, let's aim for, season B in 2 years' time. That gives us about just under 1.5 years to really sort of build a really good foundation and build that muscle. That's obviously the most important part, and then cut down and then jump on stage from there. So roughly, honestly, if I was to, even though this is very like a broad sort of thing to answer, I would say roughly like a good 2 years after someone is, built up already decent foundation is probably a really good timeline.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, like I've taken on clients like you have as well too, where they've like came on board and just started prep. We're more than happy to do that, especially if someone's got the background to do it. But, that's not an optimal world. We'd like to be working with someone for a while first before doing that, to build up their calories to the point where they're like, sitting in a surplus for a while, where they've built that good foundation of muscle before cutting down. But again, like we've also then prepped someone, we worked with someone for like years and then gone, okay, now we're looking to start to look at prepping from here. So
yeah, everyone is so different. What would you say your ultimate timeline is for prepping someone for a show? Like 20 weeks, 15 weeks, 25 weeks, longer preps?
Yeah, and as you know, it differs, right? Like if someone comes to me and they're already sort of quite lean, like I think my clients for this season, a few of them started just over 20 weeks, and a few of them are closer to 30. And again, it depends on obviously what category you're aiming for as well, right? But you're the same. We both have the same views. The more time that we can be, I suppose, or the more time we give ourselves, the better, right? Yeah. If you can get yourself lean nice and early, that's an optimal world. Sometimes that's not always the case. You need to push it right through to the end sometimes. Again, that's completely fine. But as long as I say to all my clients is like, okay, I'm going to give you the optimal amount of time that I believe is going to be necessary to get you to a goal. Let's just say give or take a couple of weeks there, just so we can like hopefully like maintain that physique. Yeah. And if you've given me absolutely 100%, then that's all I can ask of you.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, it differs obviously per category, but let's just say anywhere between. Have you went much lower than like 20 weeks before with a few clients? Do you ever do like really short preps?
I mean, I'm sure I have had clients who have done shorter, 18-week preps, but even so, like at least 20 weeks. Yeah. That's what I always say. That sort of 20 weeks is more so less the minimum, unless like, even so, it's just even to get in that mindset, right? Let's just say someone who was competing in bikini was like close to stage ready already. It's like,
I don't want them to be just only focusing on like that, like 6 weeks out, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I like to be like, okay, let's enter our prep. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be like calories super low,
exactly.
starving the whole entire time, right? Like,
or like sometimes I'll start someone's prep early at 25 weeks out mark, but then all of a sudden we're reversing for like 10 weeks into that prep, like as well, but like, at 10 week out, it's like, okay, well, we're ahead. So let's just, and it's like you're reversing. It's still technically in deficit, but, it's everyone's so different. There's no average, which is why doing podcasts can always be almost a little bit hard, because we're talking about such a broad range of clientele from all different body fats, standing points, metabolism, categories, like male bodybuilders to female bikini competitors. Like there's no not one size fits all. So everyone is so different. What would you say? So now as well that I wanted to talk about the fact that we are getting that really close to season B shows now. And now that we are around that like 6 to 8 week out mark, let's talk a little bit about some tips that like we like to implement for our clients when things are getting a little bit difficult around that final crunch time. Because now, now's the point where everyone's kind of food focus levels are probably increasing a little bit. They kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone's starting to register, posing's being fine tuned, and it's the lights at the end of the tunnel. So I mean, let's have a little bit of a chat about some tips we would put into place regarding pushing through at the end, those tough days that can be awful.
Because we've both experienced it. I believe my second prep was probably worse than my first in regards to that side of things, like just the hunger I was experiencing and the battles I had to go through prep. Everyone sort of says it's like sort of slightly easier second time, but then sometimes it isn't. Every single one is so different.
Yeah, it's so different.
Yeah, and it's just like there's a couple things that I really focus on with my clients, but again, it is just so individualized, and every single prep is, and that's where like I just want to quickly touch on. So that's where I was the same. I'm sure you're probably similar in regards to when you first would start coaching clients to contest prep, is where a lot of it we're judging off like our past experiences with prep. And obviously that's where you take that risk with getting a coach that has like just started and doing contest prep, is like a lot of it they're basing off what they've done
it's
themselves.
like their own prep protocols.
Yeah, you can do as much research as you like, and get as much of an understanding.
Nothing prepares you as the actual experience that a coaching clients does. Even if you've competed in shows for like 10 years by yourself, but if you've never coached a client, it's so different. Like the psychology of a client as well, and like what goes behind a contest prep is next level. Like you just don't know. But I agree completely.
And that's where like me and you are going to obviously benefit a lot when someone comes to us and go like, we went through a lot, but then our clients have also went through a lot as well. Obviously there's so many coaches out there that have prepped a lot of clients as well too, but I think even just the range of clients that we've had as well too,
such a range, like,
and then you going through it for such a young age as well.
You too.
Well, me too. Yeah. God, when was I? What was I? Oh God, I can't even remember now. 19 or 20? I think I was 20 maybe. I think my first one. I was just finished out as a teenager. No, 2016 I think my first one was.
We both competed in 2016.
Yeah, so in regards to like the battling those sort of like difficult few weeks like leading up to prep, I really individualize it like per client. And again, a lot of it will be down to like fatigue factor, what they're sort of like, how much they're struggling through their sessions, how much they're just struggling through like day-to-day life to try and like reach their step targets, to try and obviously manage the hunger levels and that sort of thing as well too. A lot of that plays a part into it, and those are obviously early signs for us as well too, if it starts to become quite harsh in terms of muscle loss or going catabolic as well. And obviously throughout prep, we need to avoid that as much as we can. Like we've worked so hard through the off season to build all this muscle. The last thing you want to do through prep is put yourself at risk of losing a lot of that, especially if you're doing something like, bodybuilding and that sort of thing as well too. You might not even ever get to that stage through someone like Bikini, because they might have to go as lean, So again, it's all about managing, like energy levels, and can they still perform as best they possibly can in the gym and that side of things, So that's where I'll start to look at implementing things like your diet breaks, your refeeds, your deloads, and all of those sorts of things to help manage that, so you can have the most successful prep possible. If they get to 10 weeks out and they're saying to me, like, Shaun, I'm struggling massively to get through my sessions, I'm super hungry and all this sort of stuff, we need to address this rather than us just going, hey, look, it's prep, push through it.
Yeah. But have you ever had anyone who's been far out from a comp and ever struggled that much, or has it just been that off day? Because I haven't had anyone.
No, not necessarily. I think people, like, maybe someone who isn't super, like, maybe isn't massively expected in terms of what can occur in like early stages of like hunger might like sort of shock them a bit, just to go, oh, like, I've never really felt like this. But then as they go on and we obviously implement sort of certain things that we do in regards to the refeeds, diet breaks and stuff, yeah, exactly, we start volumizing food for them and create plans to help them through all this, then it's much more manageable, and they realize it's like, okay, look, I'm just sort of a bit hungry, and a bit depleted, I can do this, so it's all just about managing those things. Like, and again, I would say I've experienced it to the extreme, just because I didn't really know what I was going into when I first started doing it. I had my coach, but other than that, like, I wasn't really talking to anybody else about bodybuilding. I was that alone.
Big of a thing either back then.
Yeah, it wasn't massive. Like, it was definitely there, and you had a few people that you could chat to, but I didn't have anyone that I like knew personally that had done it before. So I remember even when I was posting on social media and I'd done my whole YouTube series and stuff like that back in the day, that's what got me through it. Because I was like talking to the camera, and that was massive. And then no one really related to what you were doing, so people were just sort of just like, oh, they were just like, had no idea really what to sort of like do. They were just saying like, keep going, push forward, and that sort of thing. So now me being able to sort of, I really try to make sure that, like, with my clients, so I'm there with like, I'm there riding it with you. I understand a lot of it, what you're going through and that sort of thing, and even my female clients as well too.
100%. I don't know if I'm sure you've definitely had this, but I have clients who come to me from other coaches, being prepped from other coaches. And, you'll be asking them about their previous prep experience and, what their protocols were like. And they don't run any diet breaks or refeeds throughout the entire prep. And I just think, how did you survive? Like, that is a long time to go without diet breaks and refeeds. And yes, you might not necessarily need them, but I see that a lot, and I have seen it quite a few times. And I feel like, I don't want to say newer coaches, but I feel like there's just a lot of people not doing like many refeeds or diet breaks these days. Obviously, you see so many people coming in and out of the industry, which baffles me. People not doing diet breaks or refeeds, especially in a contest prep for an extended fat loss phase. And I also heard the other day as well, one of my new clients who's actually starting with me this Monday, prepping her for next year, she didn't do any cardio throughout her previous prep, which is great, but her calories were super low. So it's just like, once again, there's no wrong or right way to do things, but it's all pros versus con factor at the end of the day. Like, there's nothing wrong with cardio. You're not going to lose muscle doing cardio if it means you can eat more, especially if you're struggling with hunger as well. So yeah, it's just definitely to help manage those cravings and that food focus, like diet breaks and refeeds, like, have gotten us through our contest preps, our clients. Like, I couldn't imagine ever I've never had a client where I haven't given them a refeed or diet break in, honestly, even any diet. So I think those are so important because they will help so much.
Definitely, like, especially when someone's on like a deep deficit as well too, like they're going to become very beneficial in terms of managing hunger cues, but then obviously also, even I look at it as it's a great way to assess like your peak week protocols as well. Like, I will ask my clients after their refeeds, it's like, hey, can you take some photos after your sessions? Because we're getting a good insight then into peak week in terms of how we're going to look after a certain amount of carbohydrates as well. And with those refeeds, I sometimes will be like, implement them, and you can sort of see someone doesn't fill up as much as what you would have expected. And it's like, okay, cool. It's like, when we come to our peak week, it's like we can carb this person up a little bit higher. So I feel like it's really very beneficial for that, especially if you haven't worked with someone before, right? With someone that you have worked before, you probably know them a bit better. It's a bit different. if someone's just completely cruising through, you know, their prep and not really suffering major energy levels and that sort of thing, I suppose you could. But again, I haven't done it either. Like I've always incorporated some form of diet break or refeed, deloads as well too. Obviously
100%.
super important, because the back end of, and again, I've went through this previously, the back end of prep, you're at a lot higher risk of obviously injury and that sort of thing as well too. You just don't have the energy there to perform at your absolute best. You know, you're obviously quite depleted, and this is where you can be at higher risk of obviously losing tightness through your movements and that sort of thing, and that's where injury can come into play as well. You know, if I've had to battle that. I think it was I'd done a pretty major back injury 8 weeks out from it was my second time competing. So from a pro show, I actually was competing in Melbourne, flew all the way to Melbourne, ended up having to pull out of my show.
Crazy.
Part of that was the injury, and then also only a few people know the story of me getting sick from eating fish, and I was holding on to a lot of fluid. I looked so watery. It was horrible. Tried to enjoy my time in Melbourne while still being in prep because I had to compete 2 weeks later. But again, it's like something like that is unexpected. Like, right? Like we can't control that. So as a coach, you've just got to act and go, okay, well, you know, what can we do to, you know, potentially still get this client on stage, or, you know, to try and manage around these things. And, you know, training and taking that sort of bit of a back off week in terms of the deloads can be really important in terms of managing fatigue and that sort of thing as well too, you know. So it's so important to have these things in place. And especially for someone who is competing, they're most likely training with a very high intensity as well, right? So we need to be able to back off and give them the chance to recover. And I always say, focus on stretching that time, your mobility as well too, a bit more than normal. You know, go get some deep tissue work done. You know, focus on your myofascial release with your foam rolling and that sort of thing. So really trying to put a big focus towards just making sure that the client feels like they have a good understanding of what they're doing, and not just, you know, I'm just throwing something at them and they're just doing it. It's like I really try and explain exactly why we're putting these things in place. Yeah. And they feel a lot more, you know, confident with, you know, in us, and also they get a good understanding for the future, you know, and they can explain to other people, you know, what comp prep's all about. So a lot of my my sort of protocols are surrounding you know, energy levels and managing those sort of things throughout prep, especially in the back end. And a lot of my clients I'm competing with now will notice that in my check-ins.
Yeah, absolutely. And we often, especially in that rear ends of contest prep, no additional extracurricular activities like extra sports, because you will be at risk of injury at you know, so much greater than, you know, if you weren't in a contest prep or just in that rear end anyway. As you said, you've done your back. One of my girls a couple years ago, prepped her quite a few comps now, but she decided to do a kickboxing class. The final, you know, 6 weeks of prep. Yeah. Pretty much broke her ankle. She still competed, did amazing, still got first. Wow. But we weren't able to do any cardio. That's it. So we had to stop her cardio completely at that point, which just means your calories do have to get lowered to compensate. But it's fine. You know, we got her there, but it's just not worth hurting yourself and being at risk of injury when you're so close to show and at that high risk, which is why doing those things like the massage and the deep tissue work, as you said, is so important, because it will help to, you know, help with your recovery. Otherwise you just hurt yourself, which is what you don't want to do. No,
the last thing you want to have to do is pull out of a comp like close to stage, as you would know from COVID.
Yeah, but 2 weeks out.
Yeah, no,
I'll still hold a grudge.
God, you would too. But like, yeah, like obviously doing all that work and getting to that physique and then having to, you know, pull out because of something like that would be horrible, you know. So like, I even at the back end of my prep, like, I wouldn't even run across the road if it was raining, you know what I mean? Like to get somewhere around the colour, because I would be like, no, I'm no risk of injury for me. I'm just going to walk across nice and slow, put up with the rain. So yeah, little things like that all do make a big difference, you know what I mean? Yeah. And again, I'll always put the focus towards obviously the health of my client first, you know, then obviously making sure that they get up on stage looking the absolute best they can. And those things, to do those things, you need to make sure that the recovery is on point, you know? So yeah, that's probably my biggest focus towards those clients who are like in that sort of, you know, back end, you know, of contest prep.
Yeah, love it. I feel like you and I have such a similar approach in the sense of we care so much about our clients that we just want them to have such a good experience with competing, that we want them to come back and have that good experience and share our love with bodybuilding for them as well. So yes, the physique is so important and obviously that's the main goal, but it doesn't mean anything if they're going to have a shitty contest prep experience. So, you know, first and foremost, just prioritizing the fact that we're going to keep them healthy, injury-free, still incorporate diet breaks, enjoying the process. And that is why our retention rate is so good, and that's why, you know, we love bodybuilding so much as well, as to be able to share that. And we see so many people have such negative experiences elsewhere, so it just like sometimes, you know, what it's like, bodybuilding in a way can almost be like a little bit cutthroat, as we chat about, but we also just, you know, think about, okay, but at the end of the day, if someone's going to contest prep, like I would rather them be in our hands. Like we have to stay in the industry, because I feel like we just need to bring good in the industry, because there's so many like coaches trying to steal other people's clients. Like, you know, we'll always have like coaches try and poach our clients and whatnot, that, you know, and, you know, talking negatively about other people. Like we are literally not involved in any of it, but you know, you see it go on, and as we said, like it can sometimes make us say like, no, like we just want it to be our positive like little bubble that we like to live in. But then it's just like we, you know, bring ourselves back to reality and think, okay, like this is what we're passionate about. We want to bring that positive space to bodybuilding that, you know, we know and love to other people, and give them a good experience. Because you know, if we just think, okay, I'm not gonna contest prep clients, because even though we still love it, just because we don't want to be in any kind of negativity that there might be in the industry, which every industry will have, then it's defeating the whole purpose, you know, because we need to be that good coach for other people. So and regarding posing as well, so I guess let's chat around some like posing tips, more particularly for those who, let's just say, naturally have no rhythm, not good poses, and they need a lot of work. So obviously we always chat about starting your posing early, working with a posing coach. I always say, and I know you say this as well, but when it comes to nutrition training, always stick with one set of eyes, and when it comes to your posing, as many eyes as possible. So, you know, getting your feedback, getting my feedback, going to other posing coaches that we recommend, going to the group posing classes. Like, what would you say is some tips for those clients who are struggling and like that's probably going to be like their downfall?
Like, I don't know if you think the same as me, and this I think you do. It's just I'm with posing, I'm someone like that just likes to like use the word like relax with it. Like you want to make sure that you're doing as much as you can in regards to like, I treat posing as the same as like I tick off my daily nutrition habits and training habits and stuff, right? I want it to be consistent. I want it to be part of your daily routine, because I want you to obviously be as good as you can with it. But if you take for someone that hasn't got that rhythm, and you take such a approach to it of like, you know, oh my God, I'm so scared, I need to absolutely perfect this, and you were going and doing your posing like an absolute robot, because you are like
I see that focused, so much,
because you're so focused on just like, I can't screw this up, then
and they're stressing about their foot, which is like a millimeter off. I literally say this in so many posing sessions as well. People get too picky, and I don't know if you've ever had a posing coach where they've just been too picky, and it's like which is great, but also if you're getting to the point where you're just too rigid, and then you can't even think about the rest of your posing routine, and then you look like a robot because if your foot's 1 millimeter off, when it really doesn't even change your quad sweep anyway, you know what I mean? So my gosh, that's such a big thing. People can be too harsh on it initially anyway, when they're not ready to be that level of harsh with it. No,
it's exactly what I take from it too, you know, and that's why I always put that emphasis toward, like, with all my clients, you know, get good at the poses or the mandatory poses, you know, don't even think about like the transitions between at the start.
Do the basics and do them really well.
100%. And then when you've got all that down pat and you feel comfortable with your poses, throw in the transitions then, you know, start, like, obviously you can still incorporate it from the start to an extent, right? But if you focus so hard on all the poses and then absolutely perfecting your transitions too, it's just another thing for you to stress and worry about throughout prep. So I'm a big believer in terms of, yes, I want to make sure that you are doing it consistently and doing it as much as possible, because it does play such a big part when you're up on stage. But at the same time, it's like, if you focus on just being like too rigid and too absolutely strict with it, in the sense that like you need to, like, you know, be like exactly in that position, you know, and on your quarter turns,
you're a failure if you don't do it,
then that's where obviously, you know, you can start to it can start to affect you like mentally as well too throughout prep, and that's the last thing we need.
Yeah.
You know, when we're putting all our energy towards our training and steps and that sort of thing as well too, you know, and maximizing our performance. So I am someone that I am a perfectionist in regards to posing. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm trying to sort of say here. But I am someone that believes fully in terms of making sure that you can go up on stage and enjoy it. You know, you want to be able to go up there and look like you're having fun, you know. And I did, like, every time I went up on stage, I would just throw like little things into my transitions. I knew my glutes were a strong point. I would point at my glutes and go like, judge, look at this. You know, little things like that. And you can see them like laughing and smiling as well too when you do stuff like that. And you stand out. Like,
100%.
They look at you and go,
and
like,
they love it. You know, the poor judges are sitting there for 14 hours that day. You got to give them something enjoyable to watch and have fun up there. No one wants to look at you and if you're not even smiling or having fun up there. Yeah.
But then again, like, obviously, you know, then the other side of it comes in. Make sure you've got, you know, a posing coach, or you're at least talking with us each week in terms of sending us through posing videos and going, what can I do better? You know, like all that sort of stuff. And we'll give you that advice just as much as we would with training and like training videos and that sort of thing, and nutrition and everything that's relating to it. But again, like the key word is for me is relax. And I say that to all my clients, and a lot of them really end up thanking me for it because when they get up on stage and realize that, they go like, I'm so glad I had that in the back of my mind, you know, because when you get up on stage for the first time ever competing, just picture it again. And, you know, you got the lights and you walk up there and there's the crowd there and the judges there and you're just sort of like shitting yourself, you know, like you're just
literally
like,
about to pee myself.
But then as soon as you start and you realize that everyone next to you is also doing the same thing, and also, and like, especially if it's a first timers as well category, everyone feels exactly the same. All the girls in particular, almost, I don't think I've ever had a female client that hasn't said to me, I feel like I'm going to fall over or trip over. You know, like every single one of them says that. Hey, and so everyone on stage next to you was thinking the exact same thing. Unfortunately for me, my first time on stage, I was up there by myself, but so I got thrown in the deep end there.
Crazy,
But you know, that's very, very rare that happens, right? Like, and you'll be up with everyone else who's thinking the exact same thing as you. And then when you get up there and everyone else is like robots and you're like, you know, flowing through poses and you're sort of enjoying it. And if you like happen to mess up at any point, it's like you can correct it, you know, as you can come out of the pose mid pose and sort of go into a transition and go back to the pose again. It's like, you know, again, judges are going to see that, where if you were to like break down because you like misstepped slightly or missed something, you know what I mean, then it's going to show more. So I really try to take that like relaxed pose approach to it in that way, and it seems to help a lot of my clients.
I completely agree. And it's like with anything, if someone says to you straight off the bat, don't stress, it's easy, you're gonna get it, you're naturally just gonna have the expectation from the start. Whereas if someone's like, oh, it's so hard, like, you know, it's like, oh my god, I'm just never gonna get it, you know. So it's such a mindset thing, but relaxing is such a big one as well. And then because your nerves are heightened as well when you're on stage, you will naturally rush through your posing a lot more. So I always say just slow it down, whatever pace that you're doing normally, just try and slow it down a little bit more, because you're probably naturally going to speed it up on stage. And look at the judges. Eye contact is everything. And I always do some breath work with clients if they're quite nervous, which they always are, and it helps so much, because otherwise they're, you know, they're doing those shorter breaths. And I love just like being that calm coach with a client. It's just like, all right. And then like you end up like helping some like other clients out as well. Like if they're coaching there, it's like, all right, everyone, we're doing breath work together. Let's calm those nerves down.
Yeah, we all have our own tactics in regards to that sort of thing. So you don't have to teach me more about that sort of thing. But yeah, like I think we all have our sort of different approach to, in terms of just like being able to like, you know, just relax and
some people do alcohol.
You know? Oh God, I know, I've heard the stories in regards to that sort of thing. So that would not relax me. That would not.
That'd give me so much anxiety.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'd be ready to go.
Yep. Oh my God.
It's like, damn, this music's sounding so good. Post down.
Oh, far out. Especially when you haven't had any drop of alcohol in how long? 20, 30 weeks.
Yeah, crazy. Oh my gosh. Jason, literally a couple hours ago, did you see? He's announced it.
Oh, actually, no, I did. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's insane. Hey.
I can't believe it.
That is just that extra little
incentive. That's and like
because you had the same thing before yours, didn't you? They announced the same
100%.
thing, and it was just I just remember you messaging me going, "Let's go!" Like
let's literally, I messaged like some of my girls this morning saying like, "Let's go pro card, baby," and I posted on the team group as well. But that's amazing. So yeah, anyway, for those who have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, probably should have mentioned that.
Jason, which is the president of ICN, he's just announced that pro cards are going to be up for grabs just at the Queensland shows, which, I mean, we've got a few Melbourne and New South Wales clients, but for our Queenslanders, pro cards at the 3 shows, which is massive. Like, that's actually like that's a lot of pro cards to be giving out. Not a lot of pro cards, but you know, like for compared to normal, like this is amazing. So I'm very excited to.
It's good though because the standard these days is just incredible. With, like natural athletes,
and there needs to be more like. Days. Otherwise, it's like hardly anyone gets rewarded.
Yeah, I know, that's it.
And like all these other federations have so many pros in them, and then natural bodybuilding, it's like. We have one competition and only one winner will get it, so it's good. And
because you get it because you want it to be really like prestigious. Hey?
Yeah,
like, you
100%.
do understand. It's like, you know, when you get it, it's like you feel like, you know, you just were the absolute top of the world. You know, you've 100%. Just done everything you can to beat everybody around you, and that sort of thing. You know, anyone that knows me personally, I'm very competitive, but like also very like, you know, friendly approach to it as well too. I'm not going to go and hit someone if they beat me, but I'm all about like, you know, I just want to do my absolute best. I'm very competitive, but it's mainly competitive with myself. You know?
100%.
You know, when you have that sort of like, you know, that I suppose that fire and that drive, and then you eventually get rewarded for it in that way. You know, it's awesome. And that's not like just a pro card. It's like it's winning or placing or anything like that, you know, or just getting recognition from other people going how good you look. You know,
100%.
All of that is just like it's just so worth it when you get to the end. There, you know, you've given absolutely everything you've got to get to that point. Hey,
and that's even something that we could talk about is just the expectation of like placing at the ends as well, because some people can be so hard on themselves to get this one particular placing and saying, Jazz, I want to win, or Shaun, I want to win. I'm going to be so upset if I don't. We cannot have this mindset, guys.
No.
We do not want this mindset. Yes, we are absolutely competitive always. It's you versus you. It's bodybuilding. It's what, like, we're literally paying to be compared to the person next to us to win. Of course, no one wants to lose. But that being said, it's having that healthy mindset and that healthy relationship with winning and with ourselves, that if we don't place, we're not going to be upset either. And if anything, that's only going to motivate us even more, and that's going to, you know, kick another fire up to, you know, get on stage again to beat ourselves previously. So I know for you and I, like, whenever we compete, it's not, obviously we always try and compete to win, but we're not going to be so devastated or heartbroken like some people may get if they have those expectations, because that's the thing, it's so hard to win. That's the thing, there's one first place. Well, number one first place, and that means out of the hundreds of competitors, you know, only one person's getting that. And then even harder to get, you know, a pro card, because you have to go to overalls and then win that, and then usually nationals. So a lot of people will say, you know, I want to, like, if I don't win, you know, I'm going to be so upset or disappointed. Like, that's when you can create a really unhealthy relationship with competing and your body image, and then you get really into like these post-comp blues as well. So I think, it's so important to, yes, absolutely try and aim to do your best, but also as well, once you do win your pro card, and whilst, yes, it is the best feeling, it's still, for me, felt just as good all the other times that I stepped on stage before I even had ever gotten a first place. I felt just as happy and fulfilled in myself, because getting up there, knowing that you've done everything that you can, that is the prize. It's not the pro card itself or the win, because ultimately it doesn't matter. Like, I've stepped on stage and not gotten any placings before, and I've still been so stoked and had the best time on stage, because I know I did everything I can, and that's honestly the real prize and the real win, is just being able to do it and just go have fun. And yes, like I said, aim to do the best, but you can't be disappointed if you don't get a place, because you can't help the placing at the end of the day. You can't show who turns up, but you can show the work that you put in. And if you're doing all the non-negotiables and you're working with your coach and you're keeping that open communication, and if you're working with us, then obviously you're going to be in the best hands. So you've done all that you can do. You're controlling the controllables, and there's no point of getting upset about if you didn't get a placing or especially a win, because that's a massive thing. It's really hard to do, and a very small majority will ever even get a first place or pro card.
That's what I was saying. Like it's prestigious, right? To get to that point and to be like, to place or to get your pro card to come first. It's not an easy thing to do. Like otherwise, everybody would be doing it. Everyone would be walking around with pro cards and that, right? So it's a very hard thing to achieve. But yeah, like it's exactly what you've just said there. We want to make sure that everyone, as long as you give your absolute best, then that's all we can ask for, and you've done and on the day, what will happen from that point. So I take the exact same approach with any client that sort of says that in that way. It's like, look, how long have we been in our off season for to get to this point? So how long are we going to then be competing as well? In comp prep, to then jump up on stage. I was like, if you were to like get upset because you came like second, for example, and didn't finish first, or fourth and didn't place, sixth and didn't place, right? And you get upset about that, then look back at those years and years and go like, oh no, it wasn't worth it. It's just, it's definitely the wrong attitude to have, right? So I put a lot of my emphasis in terms of all my clients is like, hey, look, let's just do our absolute best. If you give me everything that you've got, I'm going to give you everything that I've got, and we're going to give us every chance to do well. But main thing is enjoy the process. I've been on both ends, right? So I've had the really successful prep. I went and won so many categories. I think I only had that year, one. I'm pretty sure my worst was third place, I think, or something like that. Like I had a super successful season. Next time around, I done one show and I'm pretty confident I came dead last. I'm pretty sure about that too. So I went both ends, of each one.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? The most fun I had on stage was when I came dead last.
How funny.
And it's like you have to enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%.
I just went through, since the comp before that, how long was it? I was in off season for about another year, I think a year and a half I had, and then prepped again for that show. And if I was to then, that was also one where I had to pull out. I was going to do two, I'd done one. But if I was to get to the end of that and then absolutely beat myself up because I come last and just go, that was all a waste of time. It's like, what did I just do all that for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all a learning curve. And that's the way I try to look at it, is like, both yourself and your coach will take a lot from this and go, okay, cool. Like, how do we get better next time? And that sort of thing, even if you win, it's like, cool. How do we get better next time? You're always thinking about the ways that you can improve in that way. So that's exactly what I took from it. Unfortunately, I caught my 2 shoulder injuries and I haven't competed since, but I'm still looking towards that. So how can I get better and how can I improve next time I do get up on stage, So that's the attitude to have, and that's where you're going to be successful in the industry, to look at it from that point of view.
Yeah, love it. So we've had a couple clients just submit a few questions. So we'll just answer a couple now and then we'll answer the rest another time. So, well, first and foremost, we had our client Georgia, or your client Georgia, on the team, who says, not a question, but just want to make sure you both know I love you so effing much. You's the best.
She's amazing, hey?
We love her. Yeah, she is amazing. She's looking so good. Yeah, I call her my jacked little Billie Eilish.
Literally, hey, she gets those comments all the time. But honestly, it's you look forward to, like especially clients like Georgia, you look forward to their check-ins every single week.
Yeah.
They're giving you everything they've got.
Passionate.
And that sort of thing. Hey, yeah. So no, this is awesome. We love you too.
Yeah. Stacey, who's in prep with you.
Yep.
What was the hardest part of both of yours in your last contest preps?
Let's have a think back.
The hardest part. Oh my god, this.
I probably already mentioned mine with my injury. It was tough. Again, it's something that you can't really control, but I was going pretty hard into my big compounds, and this is probably where I would take something like that and I would do it differently next time. Like I was still deadlifting really heavy and that sort of thing as well too. I could probably find different ways to do that, especially at the back end. But yeah, that was definitely the hardest, and it was just something that was completely unexpected. I hadn't experienced my first time competing, and it just made the rest of my prep training wise quite hard. I was constantly, if you saw me training, I was constantly throwing dumbbells and getting annoyed.
Yeah, I know.
Because,
I did.
Just battling just battling these nigglies and just not being able to perform at your best, because like all I ever knew before that was go hard or go home, really.
Yeah.
Like, and then when you can't give that 100%, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I suppose if I was to look outside of the injury, I think it's probably, again, this is different, maybe not to everyone, but I felt that bit of expectation, I guess, in that second one after my last, I think, in a way.
Especially us as coaches, my God, the pressure we're going to be feeling next time is going to be next level.
You know, when everyone's looking at you and going like, but everyone, I suppose a lot of people do understand as well at the same time. You know, you'll get the odd person that'll go like, oh, you know, why aren't you doing as good as what you could be, but like, or good as some other people. But at the end of the day, I'm always giving 100%. Always will, you know, and just some things that last prep just didn't go my way. But it makes me even more determined, you know, in the future to get up and do it again. Even if I'm I keep pushing it back, but even if I'm 40, I'm gonna make sure I get up there, you know?
Season 8 2027.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
The hardest thing for me, my previous contest preps, see, I love the prep itself. Like, I love the grind, and I think when you're in that zone, it's so good. I think the hardest thing for me is being in a relationship and sacrificing meals out and like your date nights, even though you can go do date nights and stuff. It's just like so boring. Like, there's only so many times you can go do a putt-putt
exactly.
or movies, and you sell the popcorn. So I'd say that's the hardest part. So next contest prep, I'm 100% being single, because screw that again. Having to be in a relationship, it's so hard. No, there's ways around. It's actually not that bad. Being dramatic, but I'd probably say that's probably the hardest part, because I can be super selfish and I can do the hard work, that's fine, but I think when you have a partner, you want to be able to enjoy those things together. It's not even necessarily like the food itself, it's just like having that activity to do together. So yeah, I'd probably say that was probably my hardest part, is just missing meals and like date nights and stuff.
It is tough. Well, that's actually probably a good topic to segue into, right? Because like relationships just in general, or even like family, and that like through prep, it's you have to have that conversation with them to get them to understand like, hey, things are gonna have to change in this time.
You can't just eat a salad at a restaurant.
Exactly. Or like, you know, you would have had, I used to have clients as well too, where like, you know, they'd pull out some scales at a restaurant and that sort of thing. And be weighing everything there. Like, I don't really want everyone to go to that extent. I'm just like, look, I always say to everyone, I'm like, look, through prep, I was like, you're going to have these sort of sacrifices. And unfortunately, like going out and that sort of thing, we just sort of can't really do. But yeah, make the changes, maybe go out for a picnic and bring your meal prep, and, you know, go out for, you know, go to putt-putt and do those sort of activities that you can still enjoy it.
Roller skating, my God, done everything.
God, I went and watched, I'm like a nerdy Star Wars fan, right? And I went when Star Wars came out throughout my prep, and I went to go watch it with my wife Chloe, and she had never watched Star Wars before, and the movies are ages, they go for so long, right? And we got into the movie, and I was like deep into prep, and I fell asleep within 5 minutes of the movie, so she had to sit through the whole Star Wars film by herself.
Oh no!
Yeah, but she ended up coming out. She going, "No, that was actually really good." I'm like, yes, I've turned her into a Star Wars fan. But like, yeah, there's just those sort of things. Like, I'd never fall asleep in a movie, right? But like, just those things about prep do affect you. And yeah, you do have, in saying that as well, you do have to have that conversation with like your partner, and just sort of, hey, look, like, things are going to change as well too. Obviously, talking about like even sex drive and stuff as well too. That can play big impact on relationships. But if you let them know in advance and go, hey, look, these things are going to happen.
It's temporary.
Exactly, it's temporary. Just I hope you can be there to support me as much as you can throughout all this, because it is only temporary, and you know, things will go back to normal afterwards. But just while I'm doing this, like my focus is going to be mainly towards prep, and I want to do getting on stage, and I want to do as much as I possibly can to you know, to maximize the potential of winning. You know, and that unfortunately is making those few sacrifices to do that. And
if they're a supportive partner, they'll get it. And my ex was obviously so supportive, and he had competed before as well, which was so helpful.
Makes it easier,
100%. When they know what it's like to physically go through that diet as well, or, you know, they understand the process because you've explained it to them, it makes it so much easier. So yeah, having a supportive partner is everything if you are in a relationship. Okay, we'll answer one last question, which is like not really contest prep related, but I feel like we'll put it in this one because the contest prep listeners will probably want to listen to this one, being food focused. But we've gotten asked, what is your favorite all-time food?
It's funny because it is probably contest prep later, because you do think so much about it.
I know. Like, and you know, it's so funny. So my client / obviously best friends, who I'm prepping for season B, Tani, she's I know she's so food focused. Like, she made me cookies for my birthday. I'm like, I'm not. She's like, what flavor? Like, even today she asked me like randomly, what's my favorite cake flavor? I'm like, anything. Like, I'm not really fussed, you know. She's just, you know, asking this question. So yeah, it's funny. It's like not contest prep related, but when you are, it's like, yeah, tell me what your exact flavor is.
Was that Stacey as well that said that?
Yeah.
No, I love Stacey.
She's awesome.
In regards to that, I'm trying to even think what foods I even like started craving. All I was doing throughout my first one was watching the 10,000 calorie.
I know, it was such a big thing back then.
It was massive back then.
I don't know if it still is. Maybe I'm just, like, we're not food focused, so we don't notice it.
God, like, it's funny,
but
like,
it was a whole era.
Yeah, like you were like, I couldn't think of anything better at the time than doing a 10,000 calorie challenge. But right now, I'm like, there's no way.
You couldn't pay me.
No.
I remember going back into like my Fitness Pal and just being like planning out what I would eat. 10,000 calories.
Yeah, I've done that multiple times. But I suppose if I was to look at, because it would be different from like prep to like outside of prep, right? Like my favorite food, like outside of prep, is something just like I love like a lasagna or something like that, or you know, something like that.
Like
but
GYG, baby.
Yeah, but yeah, in prep it's something like that you physically cannot have, like a takeaway
cookies,
or something like that. Or,
you know,
yeah.
You'd choose like HSP or something, you know.
Yes, 100%. So
and it's like never in your life have you ever really ever eaten HSP, but all of a sudden prep is your favorite food.
Yeah, and even I suppose
it's making fake away versions.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally.
God, my variations on foods were so weird. I made even the little, I can't remember if you've done it, but I was making like the wraps out of like the cabbage was the wrap.
Yeah,
and I would like put my chicken in there, put hot sauce and stuff in it. And I was like trying to replicate like a taco.
Oh yeah,
like,
100%.
This is weird.
And you got me onto the Yoplait yogurt with, I still honestly do it, but with the avalanche powder, and you put your frozen berries in there. Like that's honestly like my favorite thing. I got to a point where I was eating like tubs of yogurt in a week. I was like, I can't wait to my yogurt and avalanche.
It was like an addiction for me. Hey,
big time.
I think I told you the story about one time where I ran out of that avalanche powder when I was in prep, and I'm like, I was losing my mind, and I like went over to I was like asking around everyone who had it, and eventually I found someone, and I went over to their house like late at night. I was like, I was doing a deal to get avalanche powder.
100%.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, like even though I was only having like, it was like 10 grams a day or something like that. It just makes such a difference to my meal.
Absolutely. And you look forward to it so much. And I remember this one time as well, it was my refeed day, and I had like my 90 grams of like, you know, my Peter's low fat ice cream, my vanilla ice cream. If you know, you know, like to look forward to. Got home from the movie. Someone's eaten it. When I tell you, I cried. I'm like, he ate my ice cream.
It's like that though.
And he's like, I'm sorry, I can just get you a new one. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I need it now. Like, you can't just get a new one tomorrow, because tomorrow was not my refeed day, and I have to wait a whole nother week.
It's funny when I actually forget about a lot of those stories.
I know.
Like even the time when I was prepping, but I was also coaching clients at the same time, coming back from Townsville, and my plane it was supposed to fly into, I think it was the Gold Coast. But for some reason we couldn't. We had to land at Brisbane for some reason, because we couldn't land at the coast. And I was like, my meal was like at home ready for me, and so we went to Brisbane. I was like, we'll be able to get off there at least. No, we had to stay on the tarmac at Brisbane Airport for ages, and then fly and take off again, fly at the coast. It had been like 7 hours since I'd last eating, and I was like almost crying on the plane. I don't think my head left my hands the whole entire plane. I was just like, just get me off. I need to eat. But it's like that. Hey, it's funny when you say that. So yeah, it's actually a good question, because like you do think so much about that in regards to in prep,
absolutely.
You honestly want to try as much as you can, not be so food focused. Like it's because that can only lead to sort of more like bad habits and that, especially like afterwards and that too. But it's easier said than done. You want to enjoy yourself 100%. As well too. Like I remember even the first one, I was looking so, because I think anyone knows it personally, I just enjoy having a beer when watching the footy and stuff on the weekends as well. And I was so much looking forward to a beer. I remember having it after prep, and I'm like, That wasn't that good what I was expecting. Hey, and
that's my client Michael. He's like, I can't wait to have my Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, it wasn't. He like talking about the Jack Daniels like the whole prep.
Yeah,
all show day.
I was doing the exact same thing with a beer, and then you have it, and just like, but it's the same thing with food too, because you have it, and then you feel super sick after it as well too, and that as well, and you're like, that was not worth it.
Yeah, and then another thing in prep with food is that you get so particular. Like I remember, I used to wait until everyone was out of the house to eat my meal, my last meal of the day. I don't want anyone to talk to me when I'm eating my last meal. because this is like I'm saving a lot of my calories with this. This is like, I need all my 5 senses. I need to use my smell, my sight, you know, my full taste buds. Like, no one talk to me. I need to like really take this moment in. I need to have it heated to the absolute max, and I need it like the exact amount of salt, which is quite a lot of salt, because you know that's all the flavor that you're getting. But yeah, it is funny how. But in terms of like my favorite foods now, once again, I don't really think about it. Like, I'm a big sweet tooth, love cookies, but I'm gonna say favorite foods like sushi, GYG, chicken and rice, in different variations. Like, I eat so boring now. Like, I literally don't even need sauce. Like, I'll just microwave rice and like put some tuna and like I eat that for breakfast. Like,
you start to have that more like food is fuel focus. Hey, you know, just that
just and whatever's easy.
Easy for sure.
Plain carbs and fat and protein. Like, done. Like, I don't want to have to think about it a second longer than I have to. So
no, I'm with you there 100%.
But yes, and then when you're in a contest prep, you're spending 20 hours doing meal prep because you're like, ooh, if I volumize it and if I heat it in the microwave for another 5 minutes, I can get more out of my oats because it volumizes.
And then eating with a teaspoon trick.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, right? Like
world's smallest teaspoon.
It makes it easier. It feels like you're eating more food. The tricks are crazy. Hey?
World's smallest bowls. Anyway, all right. Well, we'll leave this podcast episode here. Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on?
Not specifically, but you know, just anyone, like, reach out to us if you have more contest prep questions, or even just from our experiences and that sort of thing. And we're always obviously happy to help out in regards to that sort of things. Like, even if you're in prep or you're outside of it too, and just wanted some ideas for, you know, what to expect, you know, just chat to us because we've probably been through it.
Yep, we definitely have. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
The Absolute Podcast.